Migrating from a local email service, here represented as MyMail, to a cloud-based internet service can be a stressful thing for an organization. And today we're going to talk about some of those options and exactly how the process works so you can make the most informed decision. So stand by. We're going to talk about two options today in this brief video. So the first thing that we need to understand is exactly how mail services work. And so we're going to go on the numbers there, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when you set up a mail server at your local site, this is a server, a physical server that's inside of your firewall in your organization. And we're just calling it joesnuffy.com. It's going to be registered to you. And number two, part of that process of installing that mail server is to create a registry with the internet. Because, as number 3 indicates, when somebody sits and says, hey, send an email message to joesnuffy.com, it basically goes up to number 4 on this chart. It basically goes up to the internet, finds joesnuffy.com, and then routes that email message to the local mail server, in this instance, joesnuffy.com. So that's how email flows on the internet. So you can understand that I can't have, for example, multiple servers that are all registered as joesnuffy.com, and I can't have a local server sitting inside of my firewall, this MyMail server, number 1 there on the drawing, and have a cloud-based service at the same time. That's a no-go. So let's go ahead and take a look at that option as option A. So option A here really is, how do I get joesnuffy.com to work on the internet as a cloud-based email service? Now remember, I don't know exactly what the times are, but you want to plan for some downtime for option A. It's probably a 72-hour window that you need to plan. And so what does that mean? Well, when we move to the cloud service, represented here as number 5, we have to do a hard cutover. So that means we have to take down that MyMail server, number 1 there. We got to cancel that, and we have to deregister number 2 there. Basically, we have to change the way that registry works. So instead of going, as we saw in the previous slide, instead of going to joesnuffy.com as the local server, now note where it's going. It's going to a cloud email server, number 5, represented in the chart here as joesnuffy.com. So we have to basically tell the internet, number 2 and number 4 there, when it searches, when number 3 sends an email message to joesnuffy.com, we no longer want it going to the local server. We want it going to a cloud-based email server. But to do that, we have to shut down number 1. So that's option A. That's really a hard cutover, not suggested, but certainly possible. The second option really is option B. Option B is the opportunity to still have Joe Snuffy available, but the email, the domain name, changes. So when people send an email to joesnuffy.com, now they're going to be sending it to joesnuffy.cloud.com. So we've changed it a little bit. And what this allows us to do, as you can see represented here on the screen, number 4, for example, well, let's start with number 1. Number 1, the local mail server continues to run. People still continue to go to joesnuffy.com. It's still working the entire time. No changes there. This is a soft migration, right? We're migrating. And let's say it takes 6 months to migrate all of the users that are on the local email server to number 5, the cloud-based email server. Once they get migrated, they automatically, as represented there, number 5, they automatically receive the email message joesnuffy.cloud.com. Now you can set up auto forwarding on number 1. You can set up notifications as well on number 1, and saying, hey, it's changed to joesnuffy.cloud.com. You can do all of that auto forwarding. And then when everything changes, we can change it at that time. So there's many creative ways to do option B. For example, we may, and I apologize, I'm kind of talking in circles here, but let me slow down and tell you how you can do it. If I have joesnuffy.com running right now and I have all of my users sending email, right? These are distant people sending email to joesnuffy.com. I can set up a forwarding agent for my email to go to joesnuffy.cloud.com. It'll send it out over there. Now, I can also, in the same vein, continue with that forwarding agent until the time I shut off joesnuffy.com, which is really number A. When I shut off joesnuffy.com, now I already have this relationship set up with Joe Snuffy. In this example here, I already have this relationship set up with joesnuffy.cloud.com, and I need to reroute. So I can still do this as a kind of a soft migration. The problem is that, remember, when I shut this down here, number one there, when I shut it down to go to option number 5, the cloud-based service, I'm going to have some downtime because steps number 2 and number 4 take some time. They could be, 72 hours or more in order to make this change that's required here and required here, so that when you send the email here, number 3, it actually gets to number 5. So I could put that forwarding agent on in option number B here and forward all my email that's coming to joesnuffy.com, forward it, basically translate it to joesnuffycloud.com, right? And push it over. And so it's all moving up, no problem. And then I'm going to have to shut down everything in 72 hours. And I can then use joesnuffy.com as an alias to joesnuffy.cloud.com, or vice versa, however you want to do it, up here on the cloud service, and have both of the services running. The downside to what I just explained, and I know that's quite detailed, what I just explained is the option here, if I was to use this option here, use forwarding agent, do a soft migration, get people going over here. When they use this cloud email service over here to respond, it's going to respond with joesnuffy.cloud.com. Now, that may not be a big deal because they get the recipient gets the email, they respond. It's not that big of a deal, right? And then eventually what will happen when this shuts down, then, which is really this model right here, when I shut this down eventually, then this will become an alias. It'll have joesnuffy.com and joesnuffy.cloud.com. So that's kind of how all of that works together. I know that's a lot of information to kind of take in, so you may want to review the video again, but essentially what we're doing, the basics of email, number 1 goes to number 2, it gets registered as joesnuffy.com, an email sent number 3, and number 4, it routes my email to my email server and everything works. When I go to a cloud service, I can continue to do that, but again, can't use this joesnuffy.com because I have a new server here doing email, so I have to register somewhere. So this is a hard cut. I shut this down completely, right? And then I changed joesnuffy.com to go to here, but I got to migrate all my users before I do that. So that's a little downside. This is a little softer migration, allows me to continue to use Joe Snuffy. I'll use joesnuffy.cloud.com here. Both of them register up, both of them get working. Then when I finally shut off joesnuffy.com, a 72-hour change, right? Then I can register this guy as an alias on this email server. And then both of these emails potentially then would work, joesnuffy.com and joesnuffy.cloud.com, because the alias would then notice here at the internet that they both go to this cloud email service.